Music. It is a part of our everyday lives. Some people use it to relax. Some use it to study. It can be recreational, or a hobby, or even a passion. It's used in movies and on TV. People even pay money to see music performed live. So, obviously, music is a pretty big deal. But I'd like to delve a little further into it. I'd like to know how it affects us, or more specifically, how it affects the students here at UNCSA. Because here on campus, music is all around us. So, let's take a look at how music affects our art.
I feel like music is one of the few things that really invokes emotion. You take a silent film, for example, like you don't feel any emotion. Like you feel some in like what the characters are doing, but the real tone, the real emotion, the real mood is through the music. So I think that's powerful.
Being musical in dance adds a quality to your dance aside from just the technique and just the steps. And so we are just indulged in the music, and one of the things I actually like to do is stand generally as close to the music source as possible, simply due to the fact that I feel like the music is a part of me in each and every movement that I do.
I'm into writing. I want to go into screenwriting, so definitely for me, where I am and the mindset I have is one of the most important things for when I'm writing. Sometimes, almost all the time, to get into the perfect mood for writing, I usually listen to jazz. I'm really into jazz. I listen to Miles Davis Quartet, Dave Brubeck, Stan Getz. All those guys really just get my mind completely cleared and just ready to put everything on paper.
We use music sometimes as a kind of preparation before you go on stage. I know I was in a production of Bus Stop for our second year classes, and before I went on, I would listen to music set in the 50s because I was like the bus driver and we'd be listening to the radio.
Whenever your mind thinks about different creative sides of things, it helps you discover what you want to do with the side that you're talking about. So if I'm thinking about something visual, listening to audio helps me move away from visual and then get a new perspective on what I'm trying to look at. And at least it puts me in this frame of reference to think about it in a different way afterwards.
It could add like a sort of emotion. It could add a motivation behind your movement. Like you can, instead of just having your steps and that kind of thing, like you add intention behind it once music is added, and I think that's what's really unique.
In terms of character building and development, something that I always do when I'm approaching a character is deciding what their music taste is, because for me as just a person and not as an actor, like that's something that's really defining for me.
I'd say that the key role is to really tune the audience in emotionally on all levels, from the story and the visuals of it and the audio of it. Whenever these all sync up as one, it creates this full movie experience that you don't get if it's just them talking.
As you can see, music plays a major part in all of these art forms. But how? What is it about music that affects us so much? Let's take a look. First off, when we listen to music, our brain is stimulated in areas that are believed to be heavily involved in emotions, arousal, and the reward/motivation system. These areas of the brain also respond to stimuli like food, sex, and drugs. So what does it mean? It means that music is a euphoria-inducing stimuli. To put it simply, music stimulates the brain. But that's not all it does. A study shows that if a subject listens to happy music, his perception of an emotionally neutral face will appear to be happy. However, if the subject listens to sad music, the same emotionally neutral face will appear sad. In this way, music affects our perception. But can it affect creativity in the same way? To test this, I've put together a small experiment in which two subjects will write 2 short stories each. One short story with happy music playing, the other with sad music playing. Based on what we know about the effects of music, I believe that the apparent mood of the music playing will enhance the subject's perception of that mood, thus motivating the mood of the stories they create. After the data is recorded, we'll compare the subject's stories and we'll look for a correlation between the music and the story's mood. Let's start with Eric. He'll have 15 minutes to write a 1-page short story that begins with the sentence, "I couldn't believe," all the while listening to happy music. Now it's important to remember that the subjects were unaware that I was going to be playing any type of music. Let's begin. Ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Now that Eric is finished, we'll bring in Edie, our second subject, and have her do the exact same thing. So, both subjects have written 1 short story while listening to happy music. Now it's time for the sad music. The same rules apply. 15 minutes to write a short story beginning with the sentence, "I couldn't believe," only this time, listening to this. Now, after having both subjects write 2 stories each, we have 4 stories to compare. First, let's take a look at Eric's sad music story. It reads, "I couldn't believe that it had been 3 years since the accident. I've been sitting here all night with these empty boxes filled with old Polaroids that are now more real than the person captured in them. It still feels new, like a wound that hasn't had the ability to dry up and scab over yet. All of your stuff is gone now. All your clothes, all of your belongings, everything. All gone. I can't entirely remember what I did with them. Goodwill, probably. I just know they serve a better purpose to whoever has them now. I keep thinking back to the day when I received the phone call. My God, I could barely even speak. I just remember greeting this person on the other end and blacking out for the rest. I was in shock, but I guess that's normal. I saw a hawk the other day. I remember we used to see those every summer when we went up north to Acadia. They appeared to be everywhere, but this was the first time in 3 years since I saw one. It's funny. Every night before I fall asleep, parts of me wish I just stayed in the ever-encumbering darkness and my body would just let all of it consume me like I was some chew toy for a larger being. Before I know it, I wake up. I guess I wasn't supposed to go that night, which is funny to think about because what made you so special that you were able to leave that night 3 years ago? What did you do that was so goddamn righteous and holy that you of all people were taken from us that night? I guess it doesn't matter now. I guess none of it really matters now. So I hope these words find you well. Write me back when you can. I'll keep my eyes up for you. Don't forget. So I think it's pretty obvious that this story can be considered sad. But before we come to any conclusions, let's compare to the rest. So let's take a look at the story Eric wrote when he was listening to happy music. It reads, "I couldn't believe that I won. After years of buying all those goddamn scratch tickets, I finally won. Oh my God, I'm going to buy so many things. A house? No, a mansion. With 6 cars. All Lamborghinis. Okay, maybe 1 Maserati. I'm gonna get myself a dog, then a pool. It has to be a huge pool. One that's big enough for me to throw Gatsby-sized events. Without, them ending with me getting shot inside of it. I wonder where I'll live now. Surely I can't stay here in New Hampshire. No, I need to go somewhere extravagant. Like Paris or Hawaii. Somewhere where I can flaunt my winnings and have everyone envy me. That would be fantastic. Then, once the land, house, and all of those fun goodies are purchased, I'll think about settling down. Maybe have a kid or 2. They will have the best childhood, and nothing will be too expensive for them. Oh man, I'm so ready for this. Then I guess that leaves my family. What do I give them? I'll have more than plenty left over, and they really do deserve the money after putting up with me for all these years. $1 million to each member of the family. Okay, fine. 10 million each. Why not, right? Like I said, I'm not running out anytime soon. I'm a billionaire. I looked over at the room and my whole train of thought became derailed. I saw my brother laughing and elbowing my parents. What was so funny? Ah, fine. He gets nothing for mocking my excitement. That'll show him. I turned over the ticket to see how I go about receiving my winnings. All I had to do was take the ticket to the North Pole? And we'll just say the last word is darn. So the mood of these stories differed quite a bit. And even though this story didn't end on a particularly happy note for the main character, I think it's fair to put this in the category of not sad. Now let's take a look at Edie's sad music story. It reads, I couldn't believe that someone so civilized could even begin to think that hurting another human being like that was okay. Jonas seemed like he was fine. He always seemed like he was fine to everyone. He never asked questions. In fact, he just seemed to always be listening. I loved to watch him. In class, he never said a word. He just stared at everyone. He never took notes. He may be starting to sound like the kind of guy who creeped a lot of people out, but not me. He was beautiful, but not in a romantic way at all. Just the way he looked at things. How he always smiled at everyone, never left anyone alone. He was the kind of guy you wanted to get to know completely. You wanted to climb into his mind to understand how he saw things, because you couldn't even begin to imagine what the world looked like to him. He was a true gentleman, in the oddest sense of the word. But Jonas snapped one day. We all saw it coming. I didn't. I never thought that was what he had been thinking all of that time. Been planning. And even after Rachel was dead, I still for some reason found him to be completely and utterly beautiful. In every sense of the word beautiful. I know murder's a crime. I know Rachel didn't deserve to die. I don't know if you even want to know, but he tied her up and sliced into her skin so gently that she didn't even feel it. She just bled out. I know I shouldn't enjoy thinking about it, but then I see him sitting across from her, watching her die. I see him smiling. And I see the beauty in it. Why do I see the beauty in that? What makes my mind so sick as to find beauty in something that has no right to receive such a compliment? I think I may be going insane in here. I don't even know if Jonah's real at all. These white walls have kept me so confined that memories of home, of outside, are mixing with the memory of things I've seen in here. I'm scared, Mom. Please take me home. So, I find this very interesting. Although the story isn't initially sad, it is very dark and ends on somewhat of a melancholy note, so for now, we'll put it in the sad category and we'll come back to analyze it later. Now let's take a look at Edie's happy music story. It reads, I couldn't believe Samson told me he was getting married. I mean, of course I always knew that it would happen one day, and I want the very best for my baby brother, of course I do. I just didn't think that he and Olivia were all that happy. Okay, I'm saying this all wrong. Samson and Olivia have always been happy. I've actually never seen him this happy before. I guess that what I'm getting at is that Samson never talked much about their relationship. And he never talked much to me. So I was just surprised when he told me first, before anyone, that he had proposed to Olivia and she said yes. In middle school, Samson had this bully named Max. He had never done anything to Max, but for some reason this kid never let up. There was this one day in PE, I think it was, that Max tripped Sam. Completely on purpose. Sam's leg was broken in 3 places and the tendon was torn. He was on crutches for almost 2 months. I heard from Sam's best friends that Max would get some other guys and pull Sam's crutches from him, push him over and hold him down. Then they'd pour their lunches all over him and leave him there, tossing his crutches over the fence. Apparently this happened every day for a month. And there was this girl that Sam liked, Waverly. I knew he liked her because he always talked about her and he rarely ever talked normally. And apparently Waverly was best friends with Max. She never stood up for my brother. I always thought that Sam didn't like girls after that. I thought he had trust issues. You know what? I know he did. He never dated. He never had a girlfriend. Not until Olivia. I just thought that he would have wanted to explore other options, but I guess she's it. I mean, she's nice and all, but Sam has been through a lot. He deserves a lot. He deserves better. So this story, even though it had been written to a happy soundtrack, is definitely not happy. However, it's not really sad either. So what can we gather from this experiment? What I noticed is that the stories that had been written to sad music had very dark themes to them, and the main characters were distressed and generally unhappy. The music could definitely be a factor in this, seeing as sad music generally makes us sad, or at least heightens our perception of sadness. The writers of these stories could have been projecting what they were feeling from the music into their characters. But what about the stories written to happy music? First off, neither of them were very dark, especially compared to the other stories. Second, both of these stories revolved around a happy event. And third, neither of these characters were actually happy by the end of their stories. So this obviously contradicts my hypothesis. So take a moment to think about the results of the test and try to come up with your own theory. Now that we have gathered our own thoughts about the experiment, let's see how the subjects feel about it.
Well, when you first played this sad song, I felt like it was easier for me to write about, because I feel like a lot of people just have like sad experiences that just come so easily to them when their brain hears something that triggers those kind of memories.
When I first started, I was just like on this path or whatever I was doing with my like subconscious writing, and then as the music started like going on for longer, it kind of changed the way that the ending went for the story in a weird way, I guess. I don't know. I just wrote a different story than I expected to.
When you played the happy music, I felt it was a little difficult to write about, because even though people have experienced happy things on the daily, it's something that's just so overlooked, I guess, in maybe today's generation. I don't know, but it's something that's so overlooked, and it's emotion that like people take for granted, that it's just so hard to write about a happy experience when they're I guess like pressured to do so. And I guess that kind of says something, how it's harder to write something happy, at least in my case, harder to write something happy than it is to write something sad.
So you said it was harder to write. Do you think the happier music affected the story at all, or was it just more of just the writing?
I don't think so. I think it just almost like opened my mind up a bit. I was able to just think freer. The sad music made it more of a constricted thing because I felt like I had to write something sad, whereas like happy, it could have been anything.
So, how does music affect you?